All right, we are recording. So again, thank you all for being here. Let's meet our panelists. So let me hit a button. Okay, there we go. You should see the panelists on the screen now. Panelists, thank you all so much for being here. What I would love for you to do is introduce yourself. Please share your name. Please share your position, what you're doing now. If you are an alum, feel free to share that, what major you were in, what college you were in. And how about a fun fact? Just a fun fact about yourself, whatever it might be. I think last time we had some interesting fun facts that came up. So Allison, are you feeling ready for a fun fact? Do you want to take it away?
Fun fact, I had a hard time thinking of a fun fact. So hi everyone, my name is Allison Aguero. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am a recruiter with City Year, which is a nonprofit education-based organization. We fall under the AmeriCorps umbrella, and I can talk a little bit more about that later. I am not a UC San Diego alumni. I'm a Pepperdine University alumni, so very small school in LA County. Fun fact, I went to the Grammys a very long time ago. Did not perform at the Grammys, but I attended, I think back in like the early 2000s. It was a very long time ago. I was very young, but that was my fun fact.
Hi guys, I can go next since I'm up next on this list. So my name is Austin Beck. I am I'm not a transfer student. I am an alumni of UC San Diego. I graduated in 2018 from Warren College. And what I do currently, we started Engineering Careers basically to give back to people like yourselves. And I'm really happy that Paula put this together because this is literally our mission, to try to help people tell their best story, help people stand out. And right now what I'm doing, aside from Engineering Careers, is I'm also in the sales sector. So I have education in the pre-med, pre-health, but right now everything's in the sales section. So I'm really excited to be speaking today, and hopefully you guys could pull something away, get a nugget out of this conversation.
My turn. Hi everyone, my name's Nat Nguyen. I am a first generation college graduate. I graduated from Ucsd in 2016 with a degree in economics, originally from Muir College. I am currently the University Relations Recruiter at LPL Financial. If you're driving down, what is it, the 805, you might see that the signage on the building. Let's see, fun fact, I interned at Disney for 6 months and the office is right behind the actual park. I think I actually only went in twice, so can you tell I'm a Disney fan? Oh, and I'll pass it on to Jessica now.
Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Kongfong. I am not an alum. However, I am a transfer. I went to Ohio State and then transferred to the University of North Carolina, so I know what it's like to be a transfer. Fun fact, since Nat mentioned Disney, I also worked at Disney, but I worked at Disney World a long time ago. I'm much older than all of you. But it was Walt Disney World in Orlando, and I was a figure model for Mulan back in the day before for the animated Mulan years ago. So thank you. Welcome everyone.
That's fantastic. I really enjoy hearing your fun facts, and I have to say, if I attended the Grammys in the early 2000s, I would have gone berserk. So, wow, that's really cool. So I do want to share too. So we have the panelists here, as well as Roxy Farkas from Career Center, who is joining us. And Roxy, I don't know if you just want to say a quick hello, but she's going to be answering some things within the chat.
Hi there, my name is Roxy Farkas. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I'll be putting in resources as the event is rolling that apply to the presentation. So feel free to check the chat. And I am the Associate Director for the Career Center, and I oversee the Social Sciences Division for any of those undergraduates who need advising or coaching, we're here to help you at the Career Center.
Awesome. Yeah, so we've got a great group of individuals here to answer your questions. What we're going to do is you already met your panel. We're going to go through a couple pre-planned questions just to, get you an idea for some things to be thinking about for the upcoming career fair, which starts today. And then we're going to have some Q&A from you all. So bring your questions, ask throughout. If you have comments throughout what we're talking about, if something you hear relates to your experience, throw it in the chat. We're going to be responding. We're going to be, giving you feedback. We want you to give us feedback as you're going through this panel as well. And then we'll just be providing you with some closing thoughts in the very end of ways you can get involved both in the Career Center and with the Triton Transfer Hub. So I'm going to share the first question on the screen, and then I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see the panelists as a group. And then you'll see the questions pop up within the chat as we keep going. So let's talk about that first question. The first question for our panelists is, what is one thing I should do to prepare for the career fair? So again, it's what is one thing I should do to prepare for the career fair? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and panelists, take it away.
I can go first for this one, and I'll popcorn it off to someone. So the whole point of a job fair or going into an interview is presenting yourself, right? And how you sell yourself is almost more important than who you are or what you've accomplished, because you want to portray yourself in a certain light. So big advocate, especially at Engineer Careers, is to have that resume ready. Now, a lot of us, especially if you're a transfer student in school, you haven't looked at your resume in what, a year, 2 years. The last job you have on there is probably like, I don't know, maybe something you had a retail position or a server position. So I think it's very important to get that up to date as much as possible. And putting your most recent experience, your soft skills, your volunteer work, I think that is by far one of the most important things, because especially in a virtual setting, you don't get to talk as much. So you're going to have to basically get your resume into their hands as soon as possible. So that's my 2 cents. I don't want to, there's a bunch of things that you could probably work on, but that's probably the thing I think personally, in my opinion, is the most important.
I can go next. Definitely agree with everything that Austin said. I also think along those lines, coming up with an elevator pitch. And I think this is also a great way to kind of test out different elevator pitches, since there are so many different people that attend career fairs. So you can kind of try them out. If you're like, oh, I didn't really like how this one sounded, I'm going to tweak it a little bit for the next person that I meet. I think just coming up with your basic elevator pitch, and then a couple of things that you want to, maybe can be interchangeable depending on who you're speaking with, what industry they're in, I think is really important.
Well, since everyone's talking about resumes, make sure your LinkedIn is updated as well. Elevator pitches, and right now you don't have to have your video on, but during any career fairs, if there's an option, make sure you have your video on, your background. You can have a nice one like mine, or make sure your dirty clothes are like put away and all that. So dress for what you want, sell yourself. Jessica, do you have anything to add?
Thanks, everyone. Those are great suggestions. And actually, Roxy put something wonderful in the chat. So if you all click on that, it's really echoing what everyone said. We have to remember who our audience is, and that this is a virtual setting. So not just updating LinkedIn and your resume, but also your Handshake profile. So this is from Handshake. They give you really good top 10 tips. I'd say the biggest tip is just to be organized. And part of being organized is you're updating things. So resume, LinkedIn, Handshake, elevator pitch, absolutely. And I think we might be getting into that a little bit more. It's really just a quick 30 seconds, less, or at least less than a minute, where you focus on like who you are, what kind of skills you have, especially related to the position, and then your current experience, like what are you currently working on? What are you currently doing? Also, that's typically related to the position you're interested in. But it's a good way to practice that. And you should practice that prior to attending. And as Allison said, kind of try different ones out. You might change your pitch for a different company depending on, you know, what kind of skills you're using. I think that they have some really good examples of how to create elevator pitches on that link Roxy sent too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for kicking it off. That is such a great tips. The concept of being organized and making sure to, you know, prepare your documents, prepare your pitch in advance, things like that. It's fantastic.
Actually,
Okay.
Jackie, can I just add one more thing? Just also wanted for you also to do research on who's actually attending. So you got to get a sense of who's attending so you can kind of craft your pitch to those different organizations and decide who you really want to speak to. And then of course, more research on not just who's attending, but research on the company themselves, what their mission is, what their positions they're looking for, all those kinds of things. Just so they know you're like on top of your game and you're ready to go when you get there.
Very true. I always hear that companies notice when students do the research in advance. Would you all agree? Yeah? Yeah, makes a big difference. So with that, that's a great segue to the next question we have for y'all, and that's, what are employers and hiring managers looking for and expecting to get out of the career fair?
Thanks, Allison. I'll start off very shortly, but obviously they're looking for their next potential hire, and obviously that could be you. And so I've been doing a lot of intake meetings for our internship program recently, and all the hiring managers want someone who's hungry, basically. They want you to want to learn more about the company, your potential career paths here. And if you are able to show that through, I don't know, just raising your hand during a career fair or following up after a career fair, you're going to be top of mind for them. You're probably going to be at the top of their short list. So I just say, make sure somehow you get noticed by them, so you're not just another application within whatever applicant tracking system.
To piggyback off what Nat said too, there is a reason why these companies are coming to UC San Diego. I mean, UC San Diego is one of the top public universities in the nation. So they're finding talent, and they know UCSD is where they'll find great talent. So it's your job to present yourself. It's your job to stand out. And what Nat was saying, like you don't want to be like, to circle back to what we were saying even before too, you want to make sure that you've done the research as well too, because they know if you've done the research, if you know their motto, if you know what position they're looking for. So yeah, just kind of to, you know, repeat what everyone said, I think it's really important that you need to be aware that you're representing the school, and you need to know what they're looking for as well too.
I have nothing to add. That is exactly what I was going to say. We're looking for our next potential applicant. I know in the career fairs that I participated in, we have such limited time to speak with you. So I'm also looking for an opportunity to continue the conversation. So, you know, providing your email address so that I can follow up with you later, because I will follow up with you. But just being prepared to like share that information and being willing to follow up with the conversation as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. I probably would just add, kind of adding on to what Nat said about being hungry. I think it's really important when you interview, you talk to, like, your first impression is an important impression, but all impressions are important. And so to show you're enthusiastic and eager. And so oftentimes students are nervous, and that's normal, and I get it. But smiling and really try to put out there that you're excited about what you're talking about. I think that's really something that, you know, when you see someone that's excited and eager, that is another way to kind of sell yourself, really, to show you're invested in what the company is invested in. The other thing I'd add too is to when you do research on the company, look to see if anything's trending in the news too, to see what's going on. That way you can speak to that. That probably would really impress them. Like you're doing more than just looking at their website. You know, you're doing your own research. We all know Google has so much information out there that you could find that it might give you more talking points. So that's my 2 cents.
Jessica, you actually just reminded me of something. So when you're doing research on the company, a lot of times you're looking into what positions they're filling, their goals, their mission statement. But something that's helped me recently is if it's a bigger company, a lot of times they have social media accounts like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. That's a huge one. And it's really good to find out what kind of culture they have there, because these career fairs, I want to say it's a little bit more informal than like an actual one-on-one meeting. So they're looking for someone that's going to fit in their culture too. So I'm not saying be someone who you aren't, but if you know that you have a certain characteristic that'll, connect well with X company, you should definitely bring that out. And that's how you stand out too.
So it's really interesting. I hear this theme of, show eager and show that you want it. And I see this question that actually came in as a, when everyone RSVP'd, they could write in some questions. And someone asked this question about what is the best way to show your interest and show that you're eager without coming across as too forward or rude? So I'm curious if you all have any thoughts on that when it comes to an example on what that could look like.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again real quick?
100%. So we had a question come in about, I want to showcase that I'm interested, but I don't want to come across as too forward or too rude. And so, from your recruiting experience, has that been an issue in the past? Is there a fine line that students need to walk? Anything like that to address that question?
I'll go ahead and speak. I get emails to universityrelations@lpl.com. Everyone write that down. Feel free to follow up with me. I am the only one that checks that inbox. But no, every time someone emails in, make sure you follow up with, "Hi, Nat. I'm really glad you got to speak to us at the career fair. I really appreciate your time. Insert a random personal fact that you remembered about me here and say how you really agree with it or something. And attach your resume, talk about which positions you're interested in. Or if they don't have anything that you're interested in, but you're still interested in the company, feel free to ask, like, what other options are there for you? Potentially, we could connect you with someone else at the company. If you would like to take it a step further, go ahead and ask if we could set time up to chat one-on-one. And most of the time, no one's gonna deny that request, right? They want you to be here. And just the fact that you're emailing in or connecting already shows a great initiative compared to everyone else.
Awesome, thanks. That's really helpful. Anyone else want to contribute to that?
Yeah, this is kind of like, I guess the background work that you would do, but I know a lot of times that when I message a recruiter or someone that's on the hiring team, I would feel like I am coming on too strong. There's this person I've never spoken to before and I'm asking them for a job. So something that's really helped me in the past is follow them on LinkedIn or follow them on any social media. I would say LinkedIn, and see what they post, interact on their posts, right? If they post a news article, comment on it. And when you speak to them, when you start, when you do that initial reach out, you can say, hey, I really like this post that you mentioned about XYZ at your company, or, hey, I agree with your thoughts on this. So that way it's not so much as like a cold call or like a cold message. You have that connection and then they'll remember you too. So I'm not a recruiter, but I've noticed that that's definitely helped me out when I am reaching out to recruiters or things like that.
If you're connecting with someone on LinkedIn, always add a message. Otherwise, they'll be less inclined to actually connect with you.
Interesting. I just learned something. That was really good to know. And I just want to draw some great attention to something Roxy had shared in the chat on, making sure that you're an active listener, asking thoughtful questions, making sure you're arriving on time, dressing professionally, being an active listener. Yes. So all these things are great suggestions. Thank you. I know I threw a little curve asking something from the pre-written questions, but yeah, thank you all so much for that. So I have another question here. Our audience today are primarily transfer students, but anyone is welcome. And this question can apply to many. And so as a transfer student, what experience, if any, can I share from my previous college, maybe previous work experience, anything before UCSD? What is relevant?
I'll start. I think it's all relevant. I don't think you should leave any of the experience that you've gained at your previous institution off, because it probably got you to UC San Diego. I think it's important to note that. And also, I think as transfer students, you're also incredibly adaptable. UCSD is a big school, and whether or not you came from another big institution or smaller one, it is a new setting. And I think that is a really great transferable skill that you can speak to in an interview, in an informational interview, interacting or networking with people. I think adaptability and flexibility is incredibly important. Hello, look at the time we're living in right now in midst a global pandemic. I think that is something that you should definitely highlight and that you can use to your advantage.
I'll just add to think about all of your experiences and the skills that you gained from them. So it could be soft skills like communication and teamwork and collaboration, but it can also be more hard skills like that are maybe you have some technical skills, graphic design skills, or engineering, computer science skills, whatever it is. But just really look through and sift through your experiences and understand what those skills are so you can decide which ones are transferable to the particular role you're interested in.
I would say as a transfer student, you've already had to jump through so many hoops to get to UCSD. So anything that you can include that shows your resilience throughout it all, because, financially, academically, I'm sure it's been tough. So even if you were working retail, go ahead and include it on your resume, but tailor those bullet points to what the actual position is. So all those soft skills or just transferable skills. And my younger sister, 2 years younger than me, was also a transfer student. Oh wait, I'm not a transfer student, but she is. And she graduated in 2018 from UCSD.
I just wanted to add for the resume piece, I would also include a summary at the top. I always tell students to, there's still some students that do the objective thing, and I'm really a big fan of a summary and Allison and all the recruiters, if you can chime in what you think, but usually I think the summary is a good place to capture the essence of who you are and the skills that you have and the qualifications you have. And when I look at that, when I hire people when I've been on hiring committees, I look at that to see, do I want to read further? Do I want to read into the details of this person's application? So really looking, I'm encouraging everyone to consider a summary at the top of the resume versus just a simple objective.
To kind of add to what Jessica said, I've probably written hundreds of resumes at this point, and the career objective and career summary is a question that comes up a lot. And the biggest mistake, or I guess not mistake, but it's not as optimal as it should be, is in that career summary, a lot of times people say, hey, I'm looking for this job and I'm hoping to learn and grow in this position, which is a fine answer. But what I found out is that companies are actually looking for what you can do for them rather than what they can do for you, right? The answer on surface level sounds really good. It's hey, my name is Austin Beck, and I'm really looking to develop my engineering skills at blank company. And it sounds great, but what they're really looking for is what you can contribute. So what skills, what knowledge, what experience you have, and how can you, contribute that to this company to make our company do better, hit our goals, hit targets, deadlines, things like that.
These are great. And so, we talked a lot about, resume and catering that resume. Now, let's say we are at the career fair, and let's say that career fair is virtual. Let's say that. So during the career fair, the question is, during the career fair, how should I approach employers virtually? What do I say and do?
I'm just gonna say be yourself. Obviously, I'm a recruiter, but every phone call that I make, I try to make it as casual and as friendly as I can because I know it's very stressful. And as an employer, we also know that you are also very stressed. So just try to relax, but come across as yourself in a professional manner. And anyone else, please add on to my very general statement. Thank you.
I agree, Nat. I would also say come with an elevator pitch. I'm going to go back to that. And then maybe come with a question. So like has been said, like do your research and come with a question. I'm always super impressed when a student comes to me with a question versus me having to, I don't want to talk as much during those career fairs. I want to learn more about you and like what you're interested in. So if you come with a question, that's going to make me remember you more and want to reach out to you even more. But I think it's just really impressive. I think across all industries, when you come with a question about like, hey, I saw this social media post or, whatever research you've done before the career fair.
If you're not sure what question to ask, a great question to ask is what's a challenge the company is currently facing? Because that gives you an idea of what's happening, what their priorities might be. Also, it's a good way to follow up and have you reflect on the question, and you can actually answer it and see how you could really support the team or contribute, or what your contributions could be.
To add on to what Jessica was saying too, another question that I found useful in just any setting, whether it be virtual or in person, let's say you're looking for a specific position, just ask, hey, someone who is currently in this position now that's doing really well, why are they doing so well in that position? And that will kind of give you some insight as to why. I mean, it's almost like a little cheat sheet, right? They'll tell you, oh, this person does this, and they do it in this manner. So it gives you guys a little bit more insight as to how you can frame your experience or your skills to match up with that. And then also just like a general tip, standing out at a virtual career fair, it's even harder online than in person. So you really, really have to make it a point to stand out and don't be afraid to say something, right? I mean, if you're just in the background nodding, just, I don't know, replying to questions only when you're asked upon, they're not going to really remember you. So I know it's easier said than done, but really make it a point to get them to remember your face, remember your name. I mean, even throw them your email right off the bat saying, hey, this is my email. I would love to contact with you, and just make sure that you're like the first person on their mind and like the last person on their mind when the meeting ends.
I love that. Be the first person on their mind and the last person on their mind. That's fantastic. So I think I have one more question that is canned, and then I see some questions coming in, and we're going to jump to those in just a little bit. So please, if you have individual questions, feel free to start writing them in the chat if you haven't done so already. But my last question for y'all is, as you mentioned too, Austin, about the idea of being the last person on their mind. So what should I do after the career fair?
I guess I could jump in right on this one, and then Nat, Allison, Jessica, if you guys want to add on to it, but that I think I kind of touched on it too, but getting your contact information to them as soon as possible, or work the other way around, ask them for their email. So as soon as the career fair is over, send them a thank you message, send them a thank you note, and say, hey, I love talking with you. Mention something that was brought up in the conversation, and then attach your resume or attach a cover letter. I think that's a super quick and easy way to, keep you at the top of their mind. If you guys want to add on to.
I do want to say, even before we're 5 minutes in, I already got a LinkedIn connection from Ting Yun here, and she added, or he, I haven't looked yet, but they also added a message. So feel free to email, connect with them, anything like that. So props to you, right?
Aside from all that, I would also say, again, going on to their LinkedIn, their social media, we're in a virtual space right now. There's a lot of free virtual events that companies are putting on right now. So those would be great ways to engage. I know some companies have like tips and tricks for like getting hired at this place. So I would definitely say after sending those emails, making those LinkedIn connections, seeing other ways that you can engage with the organization and make yourself stand out.
I would agree with all those, and really just take notes as you're listening to all of us, and then write down questions that we might not get to. That's another way of, and like Nat mentioned, remembering like something about one of us that really helps, because it's sincere and genuine. And obviously you were listening and paying attention. That's going to capture someone's attention than a generic message. So trying to have like a more targeted message to individuals you're contacting.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. I have one more question, and this one is geared towards Jessica, if you could share it all, and any alum who are on the panel, if you want to share about your personal experiences here. But what are resources at UCSD to get me connected to the career fair and ensure I'm on the right foot? And as y'all have seen, Roxy has been adding in some amazing resources here as well. But Jessica, do you want to highlight anything, speak towards anything? And alum on this panel, feel free to chime in.
Yes, from our website, for sure, get onto career.ucsd.edu. That's our general career site. And on there is the Triton Guide. I can link it, or Roxy will link it. But it's the Triton Career Guide, has everything you can want in terms of how to craft your resume, even how it's like there's a template of how to write it, how to write your bullet points where they're action oriented and results oriented. You don't want to just talk about the job description, what you do. You want to write about the impact what you did had and any results from what you did in your positions. Also, like I mentioned, the summary piece. Yes, Allison mentions quantitative results. Absolutely. That's what's going to stand out. They don't want to read a job description. They want to know what you accomplished and achieved in that role. So the Triton Career Guide has everything. So resume, also it gives you a structure of how to write your cover letter. Even when a cover letter is not required, but it's optional, I still encourage writing one. It shows you took the extra time. It gives them a sense of hearing your voice more than your resume. And I won't get into the details of how to write a cover letter, but we have that in the guide as well. And then also in the guide, I encourage everyone to start journaling. I know this sounds kind of like, might not sound like something you would want to do, but when you start thinking about what you're doing in your extracurricular activities, your internships, you realize you actually do a lot more than you remember. And so it's a good way to start like reflecting, which is one of our core competencies, self-reflection, reflecting on what you're doing in your role, what you're learning in your role, and how that can help another organization or wherever you're going to go. So it's really a great way to be organized. So I'd say that. And then I think there's on our career page, there's all of our virtual career fairs. If you need appointments or need to get your resume reviewed or anything like that, we can help you at the Career Center. You just have to schedule an appointment at Handshake, and I'll put that in the link. I think that's it. I think I covered all the major resources.
I will add, beyond the Career Services Center, look to people that you've known that went to UCSD but is currently working right now. Connect with them, go through your student orgs. If you're not in anything that might be beneficial to you, go ahead and join. They welcome everyone. And most of the times, those organizations have mentorship programs that will connect you with someone who is already working and can set you up with informational interviews and all those things to get your foot a little closer to the door.
And what Jessica was saying, a cover letter is a really good place to express yourself. And along with what Allison's saying as well too. And Jessica, you guys said to take notes and journal, right? A good way or a good acronym, I don't know if you have heard this, I don't know if you haven't heard it, but there's STAR and there's CARL. That's a really good way to take those type of notes. So STAR would be situation, task, action, result. So you talk about what the situation was, what you had to do for task, what action you took, and then the result from it. And then you also have CARL, which is very similar. What was the challenge? What was the action you took? What was the result? And what did you learn? So that kind of just goes in line with what Allison was saying. What was the problem? How did you fix it? And if you guys need help, I mean, more than happy to take a look at it in terms of resume and cover letter, but that's probably the most important thing to keep in mind, STAR and CARL.
Love it. Okay, so I'm looking through some of these questions that we've received in so far. And someone asked about, we've talked a lot about company culture and doing research. And so they asked, what is one experience that you have that made you feel like, wow, that student has really done their research?
Well, I don't have one where I was very impressed, but I have one that was very funny. I'll share with you. This student emailed me back and asked, what does LPLA mean? And their whole assignment was about talking about how LPL would be great to open another headquarters in LA. But LPLA is actually our ticker symbol on the stock market. So I was just like, ooh.
I guess to kind of add to that, I'm not a recruiter, but I can give an example where me doing the background work helped me get a position. Now, obviously, this was way back when I was in high school. I was interviewing for PacSun, and it was a group interview, and you really had to stick out, right? So I did my research on the company, and PacSun actually has a couple of in-house brands, like brands that they make. And one of the, I guess, assignments that we had in that group interview was to put together an outfit that we think looked nice. And I picked all the clothes that PacSun happened to be producers of, and the manager actually noticed that as well too. And he said, did you pick this on purpose? And I said, yeah. So that's just some anecdotal evidence, but I mean, it's applicable to anything you do, right? Just doing your due diligence beforehand.
All right, thank you so much. So we had a couple write-in questions that were very similar, and so I want to condense that concept. And we had a couple people ask, how do you get an internship without any formalized working experience?
Well, you should leverage your courses. And if your courses are not relevant to the position, I studied economics, but all my internships were in HR. Just try to show that you've had demonstrated interest in other areas, like if you're involved in a similar function in student orgs, or you volunteer outside of school and all those things. So you literally leverage anything that you can.
I agree. This is also, I'm a former UCSD employee, so I do know that you all have the co-curricular record, which is a great tool to help you if you're ever stumped on like, I don't have the experience, the relevant experience for this job. Yes, you do. That is a great way to help you kind of be able to answer, any interview questions, help you figure out what to put on your resume, and just help you articulate your experience and show that you do have transferable skills, even though you might not have, the exact experience for, in this specific setting.
And there's certain things that, there's certain things you can't get around. Like if someone's looking for 5 years experience in Python, or someone's looking for someone that knows a specific program, you can't fake that. But you'll be surprised like what they said, how far transferable skills go and how far soft skills go. I mean, even if you're a cashier, if you're a waiter, waitress, your coursework, like Nat mentioned, there's a lot of things that you learn in those classes. If you're in a pre-med or pre-health background, those lab classes that you take, those actually teach you a lot of hard skills if you're looking to go into that industry. So don't discount the soft skills is basically what I'm saying.
And just adding to network, I always say like be networking throughout. Don't wait till you need the job. It's kind of a good idea to start planting seeds of like whether it's doing informational interviews and getting to know people. And maybe usually what ends up happening, and this happened to me 100 years ago when I was in school, where I just was looking for a research position. And I started right away when I was in graduate school, and I just kept asking, and I didn't know when it was going to happen, but it eventually happened. And so that's why I'm encouraging you to not wait till you need something, to kind of be networking and, developing relationships. That's actually one thing I emphasize a lot, is building relationships, cultivating them, and finding mentors. I work a lot with the pre-meds, and so we're always talking about, you got to build those relationships early. You can't rewind time and get those letters. Everyone needs a recommendation, and so it's really good to start cultivating those early on. The best time to start is now.
So on that note, we've received some questions. We know that individuals here are probably looking for jobs, looking for internships. This might be their last year here. Some individuals might have already graduated in fall and are here to learn as well. And so one question that's come in was, what helped you the most during your job search leading to graduation? So Jessica, that was a perfect segue into that question. I'm curious if y'all have anything else to add on that concept.
I could add on to that. So when I started my job search, of course you want to look for internships throughout your 4 years, but I actually started my job search in the first quarter of my last year, because not only do interviews take months, they take months, certain companies have certain hiring times too, right? If you want to apply for the spring, you have to apply by this date. If you want to apply for the fall or summer, you have to apply by this date. If you really need to set aside enough time for yourself. I think my senior year, I was able to knock out a good amount of my classes, so I could focus, maybe an hour a day on preparing for these interviews or finding jobs. So yes, start early. Like Jessica said, don't wait till the last minute, because you really need the time to plant those seeds, make the connections. And just from personal experience, who you know is almost as important as what you're qualified for too. A good referral or a good connection goes a long way. So start early.
Yeah, that's a great point, Austin. I really want to encourage the networking thing. Again, it goes back to that. And this is in any industry. I think when I used to work in a completely different industry, and then I transitioned into higher ed. And so what Austin mentioned about months and months, higher ed is one of those places where it takes months to get hired at these types of institutions. And so really, networking, because even in a higher ed public institution, it really helps to know someone, talking to people, doing informational interviews while you have a job, or while you're in school, or you have access to a network, because you just don't know how those seeds will develop and when they'll develop. And so really, I found most of my jobs in higher ed, and I've been doing this for 20 years, someone's referred me. And, of course I had to go through the process and all that, but trust me that people want to look at someone familiar. That's also just human nature. Someone that's familiar, someone that they trust, versus sifting through hundreds of random applications. So yes, don't underestimate the power of networking and a good referral.
I think with all this in mind, one of the questions that just came in is this concept networking in a virtual environment. And, sometimes the word networking can seem so nebulous. What does it mean? How do I do it? How do I get started? So can you speak towards this concept? Can y'all speak towards the concept of networking in a virtual environment and what that, if you had to define it, what it looks like?
I would say, I don't know if I can define it quite yet, but I would say like LinkedIn is a great resource. That's actually how I got my job at UC San Diego. Well, I was working at UC San Diego and I was applying to a different one on campus. I looked up who was in the position and it turned out my best friend was connected with them. So I reached out to my best friend. I was like, can you introduce me, which is very relevant for this time period. And so she, sent a message and said, hey, my friend Allison is interested in this role. And then I took her to lunch and just asked her, what's the job like? Why are you leaving? I asked all of the questions and she gave me some great advice and I ended up getting the job. I think because I did my research and took the time to meet with them and learn, what kind of skills I needed or what skills I needed to showcase. So I'd say LinkedIn is a great resource, especially as someone like coming from outside the university. And yeah, I would say also like being a student or recent grad is actually like to your advantage because people love to talk about themselves, especially to young impressionable folks. So I would definitely utilize the network of alumni and tap into the Career Services Center because they've got some great resources to help you get connected to alumni that will take the time to talk to you and schedule some time on the phone or Zoom to meet with them as well.
For engineering careers, every like program we put together to help people like learn about a specific topic, it's all been virtual. Even before COVID hit, we would message someone on LinkedIn, say, hey, I saw your experience that you worked at this company. We think you'd be a really great fit. Do you have some time? And kind of along the lines of what Allison was saying, replace today, because you can't really be in person with anyone. What's been working really well is like coffee chats. Like, hey, do you have 15 minutes? I'd love to talk. And I've noticed that being a student, yes, it really, really does help you. You could even put it there too. Like when you're messaging someone on LinkedIn, it's like, hey, I'm a student, I'm studying this. I want to get into your position. It looks like you've been at this company for so long. I would really love to pick your brain for 15 minutes. Do you want to do a coffee chat? It's really that simple. And then if you want to do even more, like, I guess more heavy lifting in the background, connect with them before, comment on their posts, like their posts and things like that.
Those informational interviews and coffee chats beyond like the initial email and LinkedIn are really important. I will say I got another internship offer during my internship because of an informational interview. You just want to plant seeds early, and I lost my train of thought, so I will pause here.
I do see a question too. We've mentioned informational interviews a little bit, and someone asked, when doing an informational interview, is it more casual, like you could talk about your life experience, or is it more formal about work? So can someone speak towards like, the concept of the informational interview and how to prepare?
I can, since I've done a lot in my heyday. I would say it's kind of a mix of both. You are, asking the person, about their experience, and sometimes they'll hear about their life, which might have led them to, the position that they're in. So it's not only you talking about yourself, you're really interviewing them about like, hey, I'd love to know like how you got into this position. Do you think grad school like would help to, if I'm, thinking about that? If not, like, are there courses I can take online? I've actually not gone to grad school because of 2 informational interviews and probably saved myself quite a bit of money just because I was a little bit on the fence about the programs. And then after my informational interviews, I was like, you know what? Not the best decision for me right now. So I think going into it, I have like my list of questions and it seems like it's going to be formal, but it ended up being like pretty informal, but very informative.
Austin, you look like
Yeah.
you were gonna chat, but I will say it when you meet up with them, kind of gauge what kind of person they are and kind of know your audience from the messages you've been exchanging and how they appear when you talk to them on the phone or on the virtual video. That really determines whether or not you can delve into more personal things or anything you'd like to share to kind of build that connection that goes beyond professional. Because from that interview, they could become a great mentor to you going forward. So you just never know.
I think to kind of add on to that too, there's no black and white answer. You just have to read the room. You have to read the person that you're talking to. But if you're only speaking on your qualifications and keeping it that professional, I feel like it's less memorable than the personal stuff, right? So if you could connect with them on a deeper level besides just your qualifications, I think that's going to really help you stick in their head. So yeah, again, just read the room. But I feel like if you can get to that point where you're talking about more personal things, it'll be more beneficial to you and you'll actually develop a real relationship with them.
The only thing I'll add is just do your research ahead of time. Google that. They have a bio. I guarantee everyone has a bio. So it's a good way to just see like what's interesting about them, and you can mention it. So whether it's LinkedIn or their company profile or whatever it is, get to know who they are before you, so you can get some of those questions out of the way. You might be able to find them online, and then you could ask more questions. You maximize that 15 minutes because you've done your research ahead of time.
I like to call it very minor stalking when you're getting ready for someone who you're talking to.
That's hilarious. I love it. Okay, so we've got 5 minutes left, everybody, and we got a couple slides that we just want to share with you to wrap things up. But before we do that, I do want to ask the panel one more question. And, I think, what is one transferable skill that you're always looking for a potential job candidate?
That one's easy. How teachable you are. If you don't have the right skill set, but if you're willing to learn and actually take instruction without offense, I think any hiring manager would be happy with that because they can see that your potential and talent. You've already gone so far.
For me, I'm not necessarily a recruiter, but what's helped me and a motto that I've lived by my whole life is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So it's really showing that motivation that you want to move up. You don't want to stay stagnant. And I think that's probably the most important thing for me to get across in an interview. And I don't know if it's necessarily a skill, but I guess it's a mindset, right? Like kind of what Nat was saying, like an ability, wanting to learn, wanting to grow, because the last thing I want is to be stuck somewhere without any room for growth. And I really make sure I'm punching that across in my interview or just anyone I'm talking about. It shows passion, it shows dedication, and it works for you too, because they know they can't keep you in a position. You want to do something more than just, entry level. Obviously you have to start entry level, but you don't want to stay there.
I would say adaptability and flexibility. The nature of my work is education, so there needs to be room for some flexibility. And also, I think communication, not just in general, but being able to communicate with diverse audiences, whether that be with students, with, admin professionals, or with external people, just knowing when to kind of like switch up your communication style.
And I'll just add, I agree with all those. I'll just add creative problem solving. Every company has a problem. So if you like to solve problems, you have creative ideas, I think thinking about how you've solved problems in other areas, whether it was in a class, in a lab, and anything you participated in, that's a great way to talk about your skill set. And that's why I always say, encourage people to ask, like, what's the problem? What's going on currently at your institution or company?
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. We're just going to wrap it up with a couple more pieces of information for you. This is the screen I'm looking for. Okay, so just to confirm, panelists, can you just tell me if you can see my screen? Yes, okay, cool. This was an issue earlier. So thank you all for coming. I do want to share with you, y'all, I know that it's a very lonely time out there. So if you're looking to connect, reach out through the Triton Transfer Hub. We're hosting hangouts within the next couple weeks. So join the peer coaches for just super casual hangouts, meet other transfer students. We're hosting other events throughout the quarter. You can check out our website. As always, if you're looking to get connected, you can find us on social media at Triton Transfers on Instagram and Facebook at Triton Transfers UCSD. I recommend following us on Instagram. We're interesting there. We're less interesting on Facebook, I'll be honest. So definitely look there. Reach out to us through email, tritontransfers@UCSD. This is, I don't know why I see what happened here. There's a typo. Our website is transferstudents.ucsd.edu. There should be a dot in there. So transferstudents.ucsd.edu. That is our website. As well, make sure that you are connecting to mentors through Triton's Connect. Jessica, do you want to say anything about this?
Just that it's, like I mentioned in the chat, it's kind of like LinkedIn, but specifically for Tritons. This is a good way to connect initially if you're a little nervous about getting connected on LinkedIn. But alumni are typically eager, just as eager to talk to other Tritons. So I think it's an easy first step. So there's not as many students and alumni on here as there are on the LinkedIn UCSD, but this is a great way to get connected and to reach out to people. And it will let you know who's willing to talk and mentor and things like that.
Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing that, Jessica. That's all we have for you today. Thank you all so much for coming. Please let us know if you have any questions, and have a good rest of your day. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.